Looking for a fast way to track what's moving online right now? Head over to Qnotables.com. It's a centralized index of notable clips, headlines, and references being shared across the community, organized for quick browsing. Use it to spot patterns, pull links, and build your own research list. Qnotables.com. Browse the notables, verify the facts, stay informed. All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards, June 2nd, 2026. Good morning, America. This is Qnotables 4 a.m. Talking Points Live. We begin with the top story. Iran is back at the center of the board. CENTCOM says U.S. forces intercepted 2 Iranian ballistic missiles targeting American forces in Kuwait. The missiles were defeated and no American personnel were reported harmed. American forces are not standing down. They are actively defending U.S. positions, keeping pressure on Tehran, and showing that attacks on American troops will be answered in real time. U.S. forces also struck Iranian air defenses, radar sites, and drone command locations. Those are the systems Iran uses to track, threaten, and attack American assets in the region. This is not background pressure anymore. This is direct action against the infrastructure behind Iran's missile and drone network. The message is clear. If Iran uses those systems to threaten Americans, those systems become targets. President Trump says talks with Iran are continuing at a rapid pace. That statement came while missile attacks, air defense strikes, and regional pressure are still unfolding. The strategy is two-track. Keep military pressure on the regime while leaving the diplomatic door open. Trump is signaling that Iran can still choose a deal, but it will not get one by firing on American forces or threatening regional shipping and bases. Trump says he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and also communicated through representatives of Hezbollah. According to Trump, both sides agreed to stop shooting. That puts the White House directly in the middle of a dangerous Israel-Hezbollah flashpoint. The goal is to prevent the conflict from widening into a larger regional war, while Iran talks continue in the background. Trump also said Netanyahu turned Israeli troops around from a major Beirut raid. Beirut is one of the most dangerous pressure points in the region, and a large Israeli move there could have widened the war fast. Trump is presenting himself as the man who stopped the escalation, kept Israel from a major raid, and preserved room for a broader regional deal. A reported plot to kill Ivanka Trump is now tied to an IRGC-linked operative. Prosecutors say the suspect was connected to Iran-backed terror networks and allegedly plotted attacks on Jewish and Israeli targets. The Ivanka Trump angle moves the story directly into American national security. Iran-linked networks are not just operating overseas. They are being accused of targeting prominent Americans connected to the Trump family. Iran's economy is also under heavy strain, with annual inflation reported at 53.9% by Iran's central bank. That means ordinary Iranians are paying far more for basic goods, while the regime continues spending on missiles, proxies, and confrontation. Economic pressure, military pressure, and internal unrest are now stacking together. Tehran is being squeezed from the outside and from within. Now to domestic politics. President Trump says Alvin Bragg created a new crime just for Donald Trump. That captures Trump's larger argument about the Manhattan case. Prosecutors stretched the law to target him personally. His supporters see it as political lawfare. The broader issue is whether prosecutors can twist old statutes into new legal theories when the target is politically valuable enough. Trump says that in the last 2 weeks he has taken out many bad political leaders and pundits. It is a victory lap message from a president who treats politics as combat and momentum as power. Through endorsements, public pressure, and direct attacks, Trump is making clear that he intends to shape the battlefield, punish opponents, and reward allies who move with him. President Trump is also calling on voters to show up and is circulating his latest endorsements. That matters because Trump's endorsement machine remains one of the strongest forces in Republican politics. His message is simple: vote, replace weak leadership, and put aligned candidates into office. These races are not just local contests. They are tests of control over the movement. A reminder is going out to vote on June 2. These smaller election dates matter because local races, primaries, judgeships, ballot questions, and party contests are often decided by low turnout voters. The people who show up control the result. Anyone who wants clean elections, stronger borders, safer communities, or better schools has one basic job: vote when the ballot is open. Trump-backed Ken Paxton is addressing party infighting after a major primary win. Paxton's victory shows that Trump-aligned candidates can still beat establishment pressure when the base turns out. The next challenge is unity. Primary fights are useful when they remove weak leadership, but the movement still has to consolidate afterward and win the races that decide power. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić says Donald Trump is more popular in Serbia than any other U.S. leader because he is pragmatic and rational. That statement matters because Trump's foreign policy brand still resonates in parts of the world that value direct negotiation over lectures. Leaders across Europe, the Balkans, and the Middle East are adjusting to Trump's deal-first approach. The EPA is drawing attention after criminal referrals alleging Democrats self-dealing in lucrative green energy grants. The issue centers on whether taxpayer money was routed through politically connected networks under the banner of climate and environmental programs. Green energy spending has become a massive pipeline of public money. The question now is whether that pipeline funded public benefit or political allies. The Justice Department's Fraud Division says it is hiring. That may sound routine, but the timing matters. Federal spending, pandemic funds, green energy grants, foreign aid, and procurement are all under scrutiny. Fraud enforcement could become a major part of the next accountability push. The formula is simple: follow the money, staff the cases, and bring charges where the evidence leads. Pete Hegseth's anti-DEI speech at West Point is being presented as a template to save American lives. The argument is direct. The military's job is to win wars, not manage political experiments. Combat units need standards, discipline, merit, and readiness. If DEI policies weaken command, training, or trust, then the cost is not academic. The cost is paid in lives. Democrat senators are erupting over President Trump cutting off the flow of Ukraine funding. The fight is about more than one foreign aid package. It is about who controls American money, how long the U.S. remains tied to Ukraine, and whether Congress can keep writing checks without a clear end state. Trump is forcing the debate: America first or endless foreign commitments? A federal appeals court has ruled against a Trump administration policy banning transgender individuals from serving in the U.S. military. The ruling keeps the legal fight alive over who sets military personnel standards: courts, politicians, or commanders responsible for readiness. The issue is headed for more legal and political conflict because it cuts straight into the question of military standards and command authority. Justice Clarence Thomas criticized his Supreme Court colleagues for declining to hear several major cases, including disputes involving race-based school admissions, military family compensation, and campus-free speech. Thomas argued the court stepped into a death row case over a smaller procedural issue, while avoiding bigger constitutional fights. His warning is about priorities. The court cannot dodge major rights questions forever. The Supreme Court is scheduled to release an order list, and legal watchers are paying attention. Order lists can reveal which cases the court will hear, which appeals are denied, and which justices are signaling concern. Sometimes, the biggest news is not a final opinion. It is the court deciding whether a major constitutional fight even gets through the door.
At shop.isawaya.com, everything you buy supports akun.com, the place where people talk freely no matter what. Check out our Akun Honey Pot, a jar of yummy honey that's as strong as your voice. Put it on toaster and tea. It's not just honey, it's freedom in every bite. Then there's Akun Butter, a smooth handmade skin cream that makes you feel good while you fight for what's right. Awesome wood and pieces for display only. Hang them up or set them out. They're for showing off Akun's tough spirit. Want to help even more? Get a proto membership. So go to shop.isawaya.com now and grab some goodies. Help Akun.top keep free speech alive, and let's keep the ideas flowing loud and free.
Start your day right with Ahoy the Ship Show, where real talk meets real energy. No fluff, no filter, just stories, opinions, and moments that matter. Catch us live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Your daily launch point for what you need to know, and a few things you didn't. Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Switch gears with Night Owl News Archives. A laid-back dive into the week's biggest headlines and hidden gems. Miss a show? Visit don'tdeletemebro.com for notes, highlights, and extras. Tap in or get left behind.
All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Board's June 2nd, 2026. Now to election integrity. Tina Peters has been released from prison after Colorado Governor Jared Polis commuted her sentence. Peters, the former Mesa County clerk, had been serving a lengthy sentence tied to unauthorized access to voting system data. Her supporters call the sentence excessive and political. Her release puts election integrity, clemency, and political prosecution back at the center of the national conversation. Mike Davis is calling for accountability over what he describes as lawfare against Tina Peters. Peters became a central figure in election integrity battles after her conviction tied to voting system access. Her release has restarted the debate over punishment, prosecution, political speech, and whether election-related prosecutions were used to make examples out of Trump-aligned officials. A conservative group is asking the federal government to investigate Colorado officials over the imprisonment of Tina Peters. The argument is that her prosecution and sentence were politically motivated and excessive. This takes the Peters case beyond state court and into a broader national dispute over whether election integrity figures were targeted. The fight is not over. It is moving to another battlefield. Judicial Watch says a lawsuit settlement will lead to the review and removal of up to 800,000 ineligible names from Oregon voter rolls. Clean voter rolls are basic election hygiene. Every state should want accurate lists, lawful registrations, and public trust. When hundreds of thousands of names require review, citizens are right to ask how the rolls got that messy in the first place. An ex-intelligence official reportedly described the Hunter Biden laptop letter as a deception operation, and the Justice Department is being asked to investigate. The 2020 letter was used to cast doubt on the laptop story right before the election. Years later, the laptop's authenticity is no longer seriously in doubt. The question now is who coordinated the letter, why, and whether voters were deliberately misled. The Biden Autopen scandal is back in the spotlight after a heated Biden cover-up hearing. Senators are asking who was really making decisions, who authorized signatures, and whether the public was kept in the dark about Joe Biden's condition and control of the presidency. The core issue is not the machine, it is authority. Americans deserve to know who was actually running the executive branch. Now to international conflict. France says it seized a sanctioned Russian oil tanker with help from the United Kingdom. The vessel is reportedly connected to Russia's Shadow Fleet, a network used to move oil around sanctions. This is economic warfare at sea. Western governments are no longer just announcing sanctions. They are boarding vessels, seizing ships, and physically enforcing the rules against Russian energy networks. Russia's nuclear agency, Rosatom, says Ukraine deliberately struck Europe's largest nuclear plant, the Zaporizhzhia facility. Ukraine denies the accusation. The plant has been at the center of nuclear safety fears since the war began. A battlefield around a major nuclear facility is one mistake away from a continent-wide crisis. That makes every strike, accusation, and counterclaim around Zaporizhzhia a major security issue. A NATO member is blasting Baltic threats toward Russia's Kaliningrad exclave as irresponsible. Kaliningrad is one of the most sensitive military flashpoints in Europe. It is Russian territory surrounded by NATO territory. Loose talk about striking or isolating it raises the risk of escalation. The warning is simple. Europe is already tense enough without turning Kaliningrad into a trigger point. Moscow says it is moving to take the Baltic states to the United Nations top court over the treatment of Russian speakers. Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia reject Russia's claims and frame them as disinformation. The legal move matters because Moscow has long used ethnic Russian populations as a political pressure point. This is another front in the information, legal, and diplomatic fight between Russia and NATO-aligned Europe. In Israel, mass ultra-Orthodox protests blocked roads and halted traffic over arrests tied to military draft refusal. The issue is tearing at Israeli society during wartime. Many Israelis are serving under heavy pressure, while ultra-Orthodox exemptions remain politically explosive. Israel is fighting enemies outside its borders while also dealing with a serious internal battle over service, duty, and national survival. Reports from southern Lebanon say Israeli strikes have hit areas where first responders and civilians are operating. Israel says it is targeting Hezbollah positions and threats. Lebanon says civilians and emergency workers are being caught in the fighting. The battlefield is crowded, the targets are mixed, and the cost is rising. This is why the Israel-Hezbollah front remains one of the most dangerous conflicts on the map. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir reportedly told Netanyahu it is time to say no to President Trump. That matters because it shows tension inside Israel's leadership over how much influence Washington should have on Israeli military decisions. Trump is pushing de-escalation. Hardliners in Israel want a stronger hand. That split could decide whether the region cools down or explodes again. Roman Goffman is set to take over as Mossad chief. A leadership change at Israel's intelligence service matters at any time, but especially during a war cycle involving Iran, Hezbollah, Gaza, Lebanon, and global terror networks. Mossad's next chief will inherit a loaded battlefield. Hostage issues, assassination threats, proxy networks, and the growing shadow war between Israel and Iran. The National Nuclear Security Administration says the last cesium irradiator was removed from Lebanon, clearing the country of high-risk radioactive material. That is a quiet but important security win. Cesium sources can become dangerous if stolen, damaged, or turned into a dirty bomb threat. In a country already under pressure from war and instability, removing high-risk radioactive material reduces one more nightmare scenario. Senator Mark Kelly is in Odessa, Ukraine, for the Black Sea Security Forum. The Black Sea remains a critical theater in the war because it connects Ukraine, Russia, NATO states, grain routes, naval activity, and energy infrastructure. Kelly's visit signals continued U.S. political interest in Ukraine's maritime front, even as Trump-aligned voices push for limits on funding and escalation. In Colombia, a pro-Trump, anti-woke lawyer and a leftist senator are now competing for the presidency. This is another sign that the global political split is no longer just left versus right. It is nationalism versus globalism, borders versus open systems, and traditional values versus progressive ideology. Colombia is a key country, and its election could shift the balance in Latin America.
Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don't delete me bro.com. Don't delete me bro.com. Don't delete me bro.com. Share the site with others. Don't delete me bro.com.
All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards, June 1st, 2026. Now to crime and public order. An active shooter alert in Pelican Narrows, Saskatchewan ended with one person dead, one seriously injured, and a suspect arrested. Police had warned residents to shelter in place as the situation unfolded near a health clinic. The shooting shows how quickly a local medical facility can become a crisis scene, and why fast alerts and armed response still matter. The U.S. Attorney's Office announced results from a 3-month multi-jurisdictional enforcement surge. Officials say the operation charged 56 federal defendants, seized more than 254 kilograms of drugs, recovered 110 illegal firearms, and apprehended 157 fugitives. That is fentanyl, guns, fugitives, and criminal networks being pulled off the street through coordinated federal, state, and local action. A key hearing for the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk will be public, a judge has ruled. The court rejected efforts to close major parts of the proceeding, keeping the case visible to the public and press. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. The ruling means Americans will be able to see major evidence presented in one of the most politically charged murder cases in the country. An official report on January 6 defendants in the D.C. jail is drawing renewed attention to claims of mold, isolation, lack of family contact, and restricted attorney access. The treatment of pretrial defendants became a major constitutional issue after January 6. Political pressure does not erase due process. Detention conditions should not become punishment before conviction. Footage of Henry Nowak's arrest is circulating and drawing concern from viewers. Arrest videos matter because they let the public see how force is being used in real time. The public deserves transparency when law enforcement acts, especially in politically sensitive cases. Video evidence does not replace full context, but it gives citizens something concrete to review instead of relying only on official statements. Now to tech, science, and surveillance. Nicholas Holscher, Peter McCullough, and Harvey Risch have published a new paper discussing the anti-cancer properties of ivermectin and mebendazole. The paper is already drawing attention in alternative health and medical freedom circles. The wider issue is whether older, inexpensive drugs are being studied honestly or dismissed because they do not fit the preferred pharmaceutical model. Expect this debate to grow. Google is seeking federal approval to release millions of specially treated mosquitoes in California and Florida through its debug program. The plan uses male mosquitoes designed to reduce disease-spreading populations over time. Supporters call it a public health tool against dengue, Zika, and other diseases. Critics want strict oversight. When a tech giant starts releasing insects into the environment, the public has a right to ask questions. Samsung is expanding support for digital ID through Samsung Wallet and Clear. The system allows users to verify identity with a phone at participating TSA checkpoints using passport-backed credentials. Convenience is the sales pitch. Privacy is the concern. Digital ID may make travel faster, but Americans need clear rules on data storage, access, tracking, and whether digital credentials become expected instead of optional. Anthropic has confidentially filed an IPO prospectus with the SEC. That puts one of the biggest artificial intelligence companies on the path toward public markets. The AI race is moving from labs and private investors into Wall Street. When companies like Anthropic go public, the public gets more transparency, but also more hype, more speculation, and more pressure to turn powerful AI systems into profit machines. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang met with executives from major South Korean companies as the AI chip race deepens. South Korea is home to Samsung, SK Hynix, LG, and other players critical to memory, displays, robotics, and advanced manufacturing. Nvidia is not just selling chips, it is building alliances across the AI supply chain. Whoever controls compute, memory, and manufacturing controls the next tech era. NASA and space items are drawing attention again as space remains both a scientific and strategic frontier. Satellites, launch systems, lunar missions, and space-based communications are now tied directly to national security. The public may see space as exploration, but governments see positioning, surveillance, missile warning, and communications control. Space is no longer separate from the battlefield. It is part of it. Major ocean tide change and disaster cycle tracking reports are circulating online. These posts focus on possible shifts in ocean behavior, seismic patterns, and disaster timing. The useful takeaway is preparedness. Families should have basic supplies, communication plans, and situational awareness. You do not need panic to practice readiness. Sun frequency shift and structural change reports are also circulating, drawing attention from space weather watchers. Solar activity can affect communications, satellites, navigation, and power grid stability. The technical debate can get complicated, but the practical issue is simple. Modern life depends on fragile systems. A serious solar event could interrupt more than phones. It could hit the infrastructure people assume will always work. And that brings us to the close. Iran is firing, America is intercepting, and U.S. forces are striking the systems behind the threat. Trump is pushing diplomacy while holding the military line. The Israel-Hezbollah front is being pulled back from the edge, but the pressure is still there. Election integrity is back in the center with Tina Peters, Oregon voter rolls, the Hunter laptop letter, and the Biden Autopen fight. Europe is dealing with Russia, Ukraine, Kaliningrad, and nuclear risk. Crime enforcement is moving, tech power is expanding, and the public is watching every signal. This has been Qnotables 4 a.m. Talking Points Live. Stay alert, stay grounded, and keep your head on a swivel.
Every voice matters. The power of free speech is more important than ever. Imagine a place where you can share your thoughts freely, explore new ideas, and engage in meaningful conversations anonymously. With online anonymity, you can express yourself without fear of judgment. It's about freedom, creativity, and connection. Join the conversation that matters. Embrace your voice. Celebrate your freedom. Visit 8kun.top today. That's 8kun.top.
That's all for now. Stay alert, stay informed, and never hand your thinking over to anyone on a screen, including me. God bless you, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. See you soon.